talk about my experience. For some context, um, December 3rd, 2nd to 4th was my on-site interview at University of Alabama. It went well. They offered the job, and I'm going to accept it. So
Congratulations.
it was very interesting. So for what it's worth, I'll just talk about the experience. If you have any specific questions, you can ask. So it was a pretty long series of days. So it started with a dinner. So at the dinner, there was a
Started with dinner.
yeah. The
Okay.
day I arrived,
Oh,
it
okay.
started with
Hmm.
That is often the case.
Okay, perfect.
there was a MD present from the medical school, and then there were three faculty members from the one of them is in signal processing. The other one is in a computational neuroscientist, and the third one is in operating.
So, sorry, this was for which post? Is it health informatics or?
Yes, AI basically.
Okay.
They have a new AI institute,
Right.
so they're hiring for that. And the difficult part from the get-go, this is something that was happening throughout, is they don't speak the language of AI, right? None of them do. There was a computational neuroscientist there who has done extensive work with robotics. So there was a little bit of similarity in terms of speaking about reinforcement learning and all that. Otherwise, there was almost no shared vocabulary. So, and the first dinner, they asked pointed questions like, "What can you contribute to the department?" For example, they brought their use cases. The MD said, "We have this ECMO machine, we have the EEG stuff that we do. We record a lot of things." They have noticed that I have done health-related work, so they said that we've also seen that you have collaboration with actual doctors in these works. So we'd like to reassure you that such a setup also exists at this university. So an interesting part for me also is I went there to sell myself. But from the beginning, I noticed they're also selling themselves all the time. So anyway, yeah.
There is a little bit more, um, history and context as for your view. Your interview, and that is not afforded to everybody. As I have very, often, character, kind of told you guys, share with you this thing about being able to talk different languages and particularly fit yourself in interdisciplinary context is extremely important. In the faculty recruiting, unlike, let's say, an AI engineer position in industry, where they'll give you a series of, 5, 6 tests at Amazon, testing you on AI. Here, I think the reason that you are even invited and that people had already seen your resume and already seen the letters where there was this, we positioned you as, and you position yourself already in a way indirectly of the work you have done over the period and such, as somebody who can collaborate with a lot of different things. Many of the hiring positions are in the context of a new cluster being built. And these clusters, meaning that group of people are hired and that they are expected to collaborate and typically work on interdisciplinary problems and go after larger proposals. So a person with 10 top papers, all on the same topic in the same conference, even NeurIPS, is often a disadvantage to a person with 5 good papers, but one that appears to be solving real world problems, work with different people, and such, especially on the topics that they themselves are interested in. For example, health happens to be one, water, management happens to be another, and so on and so forth. So, and the other thing is that in your presentation to them, being able to talk to people of this diverse thing, the point that you made about language being different is so critical. Why am I sharing with you all these interviews and presentation? The other day I shared this presentation on the guy who talked about agents. I just shared a presentation about interview with a venture capital, but who has really run AI companies or activities. There was a guy, I see Rishit here. I had a student name, I believe, Rishit Agrawal, same name, who graduated in, long time ago, when I was my first job, academic job. And his interview was with, at a dinner that involved vice president. So not only the hiring manager, but, couple of levels up. And here I'm getting the second level position, not the first one, right? Because he could talk about the industry, he could talk about how the standards in the industry at that time and how you would apply. So if you are going to, if you look at the secret sauce, one of the reasons of success of our students who have gone to even academia, that they are not very narrow. Uh, they're not kind of after saying I'm an expert in this field, I publish in this conference and that's it. Because if you do that, the number of people you're going to meet who would appreciate that would be very few. And there must be a unique situation where say, I'm hiring in robotics and you have proved a lot in robotics, then we'll hire. But there are more positions of this kind where they are hiring people who can do a number of different things, collaborate with different things, be a part of something larger. And so sum is larger than the parts kind of thing. And the fact that this interview process um, involve people from beyond computer science is a very deliberate choice that they have.
So I am, just to add to this, very appreciative of this training that Dr. Chet has done. Let's say I hadn't talked to like people like Meera and Taylor, and I would be woefully unprepared for this because it's just not possible to speak to an MD. Luckily, he had a little bit of a technical background, but that relates to the brain-computer interaction. He was speaking in cognitive neuroscience. So in terms of the neural circuit in the brain, the activation, the chemical reactions and everything. So I attended Christian O'Reilly's first class. And then I also have spoken to say Manish Gupta. I don't know if any people remember, but he gave a talk on correlating brain things to language patterns. So having assimilated all this information, I was able to organically drive that conversation. So this is this skill. It can't be overstated. If I hadn't in my PhD training encountered this many perspectives and varieties of conversations, then it's just you would be a deer in headlights in these type.
Remember, we have so many linking groups. We have one for cognitive science, architecture, another for neuroscience. All these, the one thing that I really urge you is to, when there's a conversation, let's say if Naeem is talking about the work he's doing, don't shut down your brain if you're not working on that. Listen to that. Don't come to this meeting with your laptop on working on, something totally different. I'm going to, in fact, starting next semester, ask you not to open the laptop, in the meeting. Be part of the meeting because these exposures are extremely critical. if in a whole week you spending 1 hour, listening to all the other things, it's a great investment in the long term. And you can't prepare for this at the last moment for your interview. It's not like you can go do lead code and other things and prepare for your, industry technical interview. This is something you have picked up over the long period of time. That is very important. The other day, uh, Utkashni gave a talk, and that was so well received by the students. Right? And she connected with the industry, experiences and many other things. So that ability really is extremely critical. Don't see this you being forced to attend a meeting that does not involve us, and say, oh, I have a big thing to, I have to attend to my emails. Don't do that, please. Go ahead.
So that was the first dinner. Then the AI center director who did my Zoom interview, he dropped me back to the hotel, and then he gave a few tips for the next day.
Who is this guy?
The one you met at the, yeah,
What's his name?
Jackie Gong.
And he's from which field?
He's now in computer science, but his background is in signal processing.
Mm.
So he was a bit more blunt than others in terms of interpersonal interactions. You were saying, yeah, you did well and stuff. He's not supposed to say all that because he's also a part of the interview panel. But yeah, the next day, we started with a visit to their psychology department. And in the psychology department, they have a car simulator. So Mercedes-Benz has a big presence in that area. And so they donated a simulator there. If you want to do research on how to avoid distractions during driving and stuff, here's a car simulator. The realest thing I've ever experienced.
Did you mention this Ruan and this? We had a paper in demo on car simulation. Sorry, car distraction.
Not at that point. Later it would come up. Yeah. So the goal was the previous night. This Dr. Gong told me is that we're going to take it to all these places, and the idea is that you identify some collaboration opportunity with these guys. So at that point, the thing that I could come up with on the slide there was, you see these computer vision systems, right? So you understand, for example, if you monitor a Tesla's computer vision system, where is the car looking at, or where is the AI looking at? So they had all these eye tracking devices and others. When people actually sit behind the wheel of that simulated Benz, in a realistic simulation, where are they looking when they're distracted or not? And what you see is there's a big discrepancy. They're not really looking at the same places that the AI is looking. For example, the AI is noticing finer angular curves in the street. The person doesn't care. He sees a stop sign, he stops. So that's one research project that I proposed. And they even asked for where would you submit this? So you have to say something like NSFSCH, for example. So that was that experience.
But you see, how, so, if let's say, work by your colleagues, like this distracted driving paper we had that I had to present because the students could not come. You could easily connect and have the conversation going. So what would happen is that you will be here you are going to put in a relatively unfamiliar situation. You're going to be put into, you suddenly drop into this particular place in psychology, and with there's a simulation, and then for you to connect and have the conversation going that is meaningful and connect to the person is extremely important. There are many things that, again, some of you would learn and others ignore here, that will come handy. Just stacking a conversation, just drawing upon very large amount of things that you can connect to. being able to talk about things that you're not an expert in. Um, uh, you have to have a vast amount of things to pick from before you can use it at that particular point of time. Who would have known that he would be put into this particular situation on this particular problem? But if you look at, and the benefit of our large group here is that so many, I just mentioned the example of Ruan's work, with the IIT student. There's so many things that you guys do, all those, demo things that we have made, that gets you many things to pick from. Who is your counterpart who would have that? Where can you point one such thing where where they would be getting that? Yes, there will be few. For example, Anku is at MIT Media Labs. They do a lot of innovative things. Or there are groups at CMU. They do a lot of interesting things. There are group at University of Southern California. They do a lot of interesting things. You can really literally count them on your hands. Okay, and really, even some of the top groups at top universities who are narrow, they don't do that. So there are people at top universities, let's say at Washington, they only go to the same conference for 15 years. Now, the chance that their student would be interviewed by somebody, by department that is just interested in that student coming on board and just doing that and continue to do that, it's not very high. There was a guy from a good, school, university that we interviewed. He had 10 paper in a top conference, same conference more or less, or one or two conference, let's say A-star conference in his area. And I did not make him, I did not make him an offer because he was just solving the same problem incrementally more and more and more. He had only communicated with a group of people from the same country all his life. And he just had no idea of proposal, no other things, right? He was trained into a paper machine, paper writing machine. And his advisor clearly was in that area, known in that conference, and knew how to write papers. That's all he knew. He's not going to succeed, right?
Yeah, so after that, right next to it is the Institute of Rural Health, they call it, but the people that sit there again call it. The type of data that they have is what I have some experience working with in my limited time contributing to the associate. fMRI data, how people speak when they're about to suffer the stroke that leads to aphasia. They also have two additional pieces of data, which is the chemical reactions in the brain. So you have electrical activity, you also have all that ion reaction in the brain. And so essentially, what they were trying to sell me is that they have this treasure trove of data that presents a consolidated picture of the brain as opposed to siloed pictures. This is the typical way neuroscience is handled. And then the task for me now is to say that if I want to connect intelligent system design as AI scientist conceptualize it to how the cognitive scientist conceptualize it versus how the neuroscience person conceptualize it. You have all this data, there's no dearth of data, but can you talk about a plausible framework that can unify all? That was her conversation with this cognitive neuroscientist. And I said a bunch of things I frankly can't recall. But she was excited by it. And she said, cannot wait to get started. That's assuming you accept the offer and stuff like that. So that was these two first meetings were the only sort of technical parts. Now is the job talk. And in the job talk, two other committee members were added, one in software development and one in physics, the co-director of the institute. He's in the physics department. So the job talk went well. The professors had 0 questions. At the end, it was PhD students and postdocs who attended were asking all the questions, and they asked very pointed technical questions on the matter in the thing. And that was also, for me, relatively speaking, easy to navigate. I would credit that to forcing myself to, for example, taking opportunities to deliver tutorials and things. It's and teaching exercises, and then of course that you get a lot of in this lab. So I'd recommend taking it. In that situation, your palms are sweating. It's very hard to deliver suddenly something. For example, as a question they asked, and also you derive from your internship knowledge something. So I'll give two specific examples. They asked, what is a mathematical framework for encoding a knowledge graph, for example. I gave a few ideas. XYZ, that's one. That's a PhD student's question. A postdoc's question was, if you're building a full-fledged system, future of AI, he mentioned Andrej Karpathy, by the way, if any of you don't know, for example, he's a big name in the field. He has come up with this term called AIOS. How would you build AIOS? So,
AI?
AI
Operating.
And so I spent 2 summers with Bosch, right? I attended all the talks. They are building an OS that is an IoT system across their mobility devices. And I was made aware of a language of implementation that is Lisp or Prolog based called WebAssembly that can integrate AI components, low-level OS kernel components, networking components, and so on. I brought that. They were impressed with that answer. So good, that went well. So again, if I hadn't had all this variety of perspectives, it would be a harrowing experience as opposed to a good experience. It was nice. The job talk mostly was a kind of verification, do I know my stuff or not? And that was okay. After that was a lunch, informal conversation. The third co-director joined. They're a person from sociology. So they had a lot to say about ATS. Because Alabama also has it.
HB?
MTS.
Oh.
So mostly my conversation was with that person, and it ended up in her saying, maybe you should make an AI for social workers course. Because I would love to understand, but I don't understand. So I said, yeah, we'll talk about it.
AI for social workers course as in a course on AI curated for social workers or?
No, like we do the summer school, right?
Right.
Like that, imagine the students are
The
all
target
social
audience
workers.
being social.
I also did mention all that.
And it could be, you guys are thinking about tutor, right? Also that. So I mean, it could be, the summer school camp kind of thing going up to the tutor.
In recent times, sorry, this is a digression, but in recent times, I've noticed this demand for curated courses for specific audiences. So this is another example. I was actually thinking about taking the high school camp forward with if we can make one prototype where the AI is acting as a high school AI tutor, maybe we can change it for different target audiences.
Yeah, so she mentioned, for example, she uses ChatGPT. And until I mentioned that during that conversation, she didn't know that she's risking sending her data to OpenAI. So that is the level of literacy surrounding AI in those domains. It's very troubling, actually.
And are they in general aware of the hallucination problems and those inaccuracy
They don't
problems?
care. They're saying it gets my thing done.
It's a content use, and you're getting something better and saving time, so you're using it. I mean, they're reading the ChatGPT answer and making minor suggestions, sending it out.
Yeah. Basically, that's what they're doing. So that was the lunch. After that, yeah, the future talk, future interest. So that was standard. You lay out what is your 1 to 2 year plan. Not standard, but I would prefer 1 to 2 year plan, 5-year plan, and longer than that. So the MD was again presented this. In the dinner, the last evening, he mentioned that he's part of an NIH center. So he wanted me to work up to that point in case we ever got to something like that ambitious, then what would be the kind of narrative or trajectory that I might follow. So I started with the NSF small grants and said that the cognitive architecture stuff I'd like to extend. I spoke about that in my research talk. Like how what should be the detail. That would be the first proposal. The SCH proposal, which is next, the collaborative proposal within 5 years. There's way too many things to do because by that point, I had discussed a lot of collaboration potential with those multiple people I met. And finally, you always have to talk about the attempt at least to write career grants. Yeah, and on the whole, they asked me at the end of that what would be you have very ambitious goals. What would be your strategy to hire students to meet these goals? And they said that it obviously sounds like you need an army to get this done. So another thing probably that goes unsaid is a small pieces of advice. Like I don't know, Dr. Javidian, he was here a few days ago, the Mark Torta student. He told me at that time that you have to smile more, be ready for spontaneous joke cracking and things like that. So first thing in response to that, I said is I would not deny an army if you have it, but ideally you have typical avenues to hire PhD students, special topics and all that. That's standard answering it. And then training people, students at all levels was an important piece of information. So I have experience with training high school undergrad and graduate students and PhD mentoring. And they know that, they looked at my resume. So they asked targeted questions about that. What was your project with the high school student? How would you engage with the undergrad for maybe they're not research minded initially. So what might you do to turn them over to research as opposed to industry? Stuff like that. Again, I don't remember my exact answers, but it is very helpful to gain all this mentoring experience and being able to answer that on the spot. The last thing after that was we just took a tour of the university, the committee members and they said other things about where's a good place to buy a house and things like that. Then now the last leg of this is to meet the administrators, the dean, the two department heads. One is the older one and one is upcoming. All of them use Dr. So as soon as I walked in, they acknowledged that I'm student.
Actually, I had already seen it. So the dean, I had said, my usual thing, what is it that you have, others don't? I talked about how you have $50,000 startup support that nobody would have practically, and such things. So he was, already well prepared on that aspects, aware of it.
So the dean is a real talker. He half an hour straight. I'm not kidding about the university. Yeah. And then the remaining two deans, the heads of department, they were in their office doing a kind of teaching moment. The old dean was telling the new dean, an old head was telling the new head, you have to ask these specific questions, tell him about health insurance. It was a bit weird. Yeah, but yeah. So that's what happened, and that was it. And in the end, as I was walking out, the faculty that basically verbally said that you're going to get the offer. I cannot formally say anything now.
That doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Usually, they have to get the, in here, they will take, they'll have committee vote, and then they will, send to dean, and it'll all sit for minimum 2 weeks, if not 3 weeks and such. So I think a lot of groundwork was done in your case, and I mean, you just fit like a glove.
From me, if any.
So which of these many
Also, sorry,
collaborators?
the question can be about before this is the job talk. So if about the Zoom interview and things that happen in between, also feel free to ask about.
You did not have one-to-one faculty meetings?
No, it was all in at lunch. We just interacted with everyone.
So in many cases, and I think this was done very differently, but many cases you just meet, like half a day is just gone in one or two faculty meets you for half an hour each. So that's another part normally.
So, yeah, which of these many collaborations are you most excited about?
All of them.
All of them.
I'll probably spend the first few weeks just badgering them constantly on the details of the project. The other thing that was really impressive to them, which they mentioned afterwards, is in my future research talk, I had given mock. They're not really mock. They had substantive content sections for the different elements of the project summary. The intellectual merit, introduction, and broader impact, and all that. So they like it. So they know when that's evidence that you have acute awareness of the structure of an NSF document. So that's one thing I missed out important.
And this was very wise, but it takes a lot of preparation, right? You're going prepared with a couple of proposal with the format, even probably it's just one page each, right? Yeah. So that investment, if you make, you are much better prepared.
You see that you formatted your future work in the way it is asked for in a proposal.
So for example, when I said my first core NSF submission will be about cognitive architectures, I gave an overview of what it is, but then I also mapped it to those sections in the project.
Very good. So are you also interviewing with other places, or you are going to accept this and close others, or what's in your mind?
This because
So you will be not interviewing other places or something.
should probably tell them because they are maybe arranging in Jan. At least 3 other places have said that.
So when are you joining them?
September, August.
August 15 is the usual start date for almost all academic jobs.
That you did not, why are you not considering other places?
I just like it a lot. It's a good environment, good colleagues, supportive colleagues. For example, I have a faculty mentor there. All of them have career awards. So it clearly is a environment that nourishes the new faculty well. So yeah.
So it's an interesting thing, and of course, he has to consider where it's likely that he will get interviewed in a timely manner, but he has to also know typically he'll get a 2 and maybe 3 week. If he gets offer in written form, he'll get 2 to 3 weeks to respond. Within that time, you need to have another offer or at least a verbal offer, so that you can go to these guys and say, I want more time. So that's one aspect. That's a practical aspect. But more importantly, um, if you have to assess where you are likely to succeed the most. And so if I look for any job, I look at what not only what I can do for the company or university or whatever, what I can offer, but I also look at why they need me. How much interested in and clearly that they are in me, how much welcoming they are into me, and not just what I can do for them or such, right? Offer itself, like in money and all that, is on one side. And basically academic offers don't vary too much anyway from one place to another place on that card, other than the cost of living, which here it is relatively low. But the other aspect is that where are you likely to succeed the most? You're not likely to succeed the most by going to the top rank university, because you can go to a top rank university, quote unquote top rank university. You're given a cubicle, you're given an office, some startup funds, but that's it. That's all you get. And then you have to reach out to the people, make connection. Today, to succeed, just writing proposal on your own, you don't succeed. Because that's not going to be enough. You should write proposal on your own, but that will be 1/3 of your proposal. Other 1/3 of proposals, like he's talking about SCH, talking to working with somebody in healthcare or other psychology, and doing a proposal, collaborative. And other 1/3 would be likely very large institutional wide effort, like AI Institute proposal or other institution center proposal, all that, right? So if you go to a place where all you have under your power is to do build, you've done good job, you can write one proposal very well, that will be a very difficult thing to grow. Then the resources you can have, the students you can have, the problems you'll work on will be very limited. And hence, an environment that you are getting here appears to be, fairly broad, comprehensive. You already know that people have already said that they would be interested in working with you, right? And so you can build upon that very quickly. But if you are getting if you're getting interview only in a department, talking only with the faculty, faculties are only publishing their papers and getting small grants, NSF grants, then that's a very different kind of thing you can do. Now, such department can also be highly ranked because ranking is based on many years of history. But I'll give you an example. One of my students, Kemafor, interviewed at a place, and that department had simply not made made an offer in World Wide Web, because people are so into that traditional thing, compiler, programming languages, theory, natural language processing, XYZ, and they did not simply think a new, sort of invest in building in the fast moving area, right? So those are static environments. They had some good, successful people in the past, but their students when I graduated, all you needed to get an academic job was 3, 4, 5 papers. That's it. In your area, and nothing else like interdisciplinary or none of those things were necessary whatsoever, right? The departments made name along that time, but because of the administration, because of the department chair, because of things, they never moved out of it. So they still have that old grandeur of thing, but in reality today, their students, others are not really making a big move. On the other hand, you may look at some of the departments in AI. They are working with industry, they are working with OpenAI, they are working with this, that. Those are the ones making waves, and those are the ones where students will have great ability to work on latest problem, right? And here may not have in the industry, you won't, this department or this university does not have the same benefit as, let's say, somebody in University of Washington would have with, so many, Microsoft and Amazon around, or somebody in the Boston area would have, or so on and so forth. But other things in terms of introducing, having access to EEG data, having access to this kind of, all that would be there, and that there is some what you call you think about this department. Go to the on Friday, the department chair made a comment that the department is like a desert. He says, and he then talk about saying, look at AI Institute. In fact, I want to find out from Mike Hughes exactly what words he used. But he has to look at the hub of activity in AI Institute, right? So it's you really have to think through. Some company that was very good 5 years ago doesn't say anything about how much opportunity you get now. So You want to get into something that is rising tide. You don't want to go to old things that is going to slowly go down. There will be lack of energy. There will be old style management. You want place where there is a management that wants to invest and they are ambitious and they are they are on the way up. They know that they want to go up and succeed. The level, the percentage of the faculty here getting career, that's a very good indication showing that they are making right choices in the people. That those people are ambitious, they are and good. Such things uh, in when he, I think he I don't know, but when he looks at his other options where at least so far he has heard from may not be very close. So
What are the other options?
Only verbal. So there were 2 weeks of AAAI and ISWC, right?
Yeah.
During that time, I spoke to a lot of those people. And also before that, I should mention that that experience was also tremendously helpful in sort of setting the stage. So for example, Yushin was,
I'm going to share this funny story, how he got the interview so quickly. So in AAA I make, where it was before ISWC, and then I was attending a talk, and kaushik was somewhere else. And after the talk, I told kaushik, look, those guys are from Alabama. And he went in and saw, he's like, that's my interviewer. That's the Dr. Gong. And then they talk, and Dr. Gong said, come very soon.
no, the interview is already decided before that.
No, it wasn't.
No, I mean he had only applied and
the Zoom interview was done.
The Zoom interview was before the.
why was Zoom interview done?
Yeah, so I think
Why was Zoom interview done?
so the Zoom interview happened before
No,
our.
why he had Zoom interview?
Huh?
Why he had Zoom interview?
I don't understand the question.
So, and the point is here, there are a lot of serendipitous things that happen, right? First, she is much more gregarious than I am. Okay, that helps to just associate like that. It helps start conversation. And then my boss supervisor, Alessandro, was also there. He was also a wingman for me, basically. Okay. He has no incentive to do that, but he did anyway. And so that is what got conversation started with University of West Florida team leader. I mean, the search committee chair. And they also coincidentally had worked with Biplav and Vishal.
That's, is
Yeah.
it one in Sarasota?
Penacolus or something.
Correct.
And then Manas was there. Manas got conversation started with folks at UNBC. And then also there was a member in the audience who was from University of Florida, Gainesville. I didn't know at the time, but immediately after the AAAI conference, so they attended the robotics paper that we presented. They reached out again. We are starting a new AI cluster hire, the medical school, the same place where I went last time and they offered research assistant professor job. Are you interested? So those are the 3 that I had pretty much sure that they want to invite me.
So sorry, West Florida?
West Florida, Florida Gainesville Medical School and UMBC.
So the lesson from me observing all these things happening is, I think it's really helpful to participate in these conferences during the work job looking season. It's really helpful.
On interview was very broad, right? Because you have social people from cognitive. So what's your interview?
Zoom interview?
This Zoom interview.
So we have a recording of his preparation Zoom interview. Was it similar or?
Pretty much exactly that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that recording is available. You can look at that. Let's make, and also like, we'll cut this part of the conversation just for internal use, not for.
Yeah, it seems the Zoom interview, it deviated almost.
So we had a mock interview here.
Yeah.
There's 5-6 faculty, asking these questions.
Does that generally happen in every university that no mock interviews?
No, none. Again,
Or it's part of it.
understand
Yeah.
how we operate differently.
Yeah.
And we schedule interview, this mock interview on within a day. He asked for it within a day. schedule. Mike Hughes was there, several other people were there. Diplo was there.
I thought it's part of PhD program.
Even non-AI, people were there.
Oh,
In the Zoom interview, was there like different people from different departments, or it's just one person, or like,
Different people.
okay,
Okay.
In the Zoom interview, they were all CS faculty,
okay,
but nobody in AI, basically.
okay.
So what was the exact title of the position that you applied to? Is it, did they first off mention it is gonna be interdisciplinary or?
Department, focus is on AI, interdisciplinary AI and cybersecurity.
So they already mentioned interdisciplinary in the hiring position itself. That explains.
Research assistant, professorship. or
No, assistant professor.
Assistant.
Every call, I applied to maybe like 100 places or 150 or something. Every call was similar, AI interdisciplinary or cybersecurity.
Hmm.
There were a few quantum computers.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yeah.